It is Saturday afternoon, June 7th, and I was just watching Hank Green's MIT commencement speech, and he said something at the very end, and it resonated with me deeply. He said, "Don't let your ideas stay in your head, share them." And it's very easy when you make things to keep things to yourself or keep things to a very small group. So I'm breaking out of that today. I'm breaking out of that habit, and I'm going to share some ideas. I'm going to share some concepts and things that I'm working on. So, from those of you who may have followed this for a while, I've been working on kind of what I call the EP, the EHR problem, for a while. And I've had this tool that I've been working on called Clinic. Clinic is simple, straightforward calendar, inbox, and task management for physicians. The idea here is to really simplify the entirety of clinical, administrative, and RCM workflows into just a couple raw primitives that can be customized to handle any workflow that the user needs. And I think there's a lot of power in that. I think there's a lot of promise in that. I've gotten some interest, and I'm excited about where that's going to go. But it's time to talk about where it is right now and what it is that I'm working on currently. So the first thing to know is that this is called Clinic. It's called Alloy at the current moment. I'm changing the name to Ceramic. I'm not going to go super into depth about why I chose this name right now, but the reason that I am changing the name is because there are two alloy tech companies that exist. Alloy Women's Health, which is a health tech company, and Alloy Automation, which is another tech company. And I think that's confusing. So I want to change it to the name Ceramic. A friend of mine has helped me with the name. He's helping me with the logo. We're working on identity system at large, logo, fonts, visual design, all that good stuff. And I'm really excited about it, but I'm also just this is very much like the placeholder version of it. So I've got this new landing page. It's called tryceramic.com. I've got some new content here. I'm not going to go through it in great depth, but I'm really excited about the direction this is going. And I think that this represents a directional change as well with the product and kind of the visual language of the product as well as the maturity of the product. For the longest time, I've only ever had this little view demo experience right here. And it's just a demo experience. Oakbrook Primary Care is the name of the demo org that I have. And I've basically just been throwing all the data in there and throwing all the experience stuff in there. But I realized that if I'm going to really start testing this seriously, two things need to happen. One, we need an updated data model, and two, we need some authentication. So to talk about the updated data model, I've got a page here. I think it's /fire. Yes, it is. So this is all of the Fire resources, the Fire spec that I have, the spec relationships here, as well as all the resources. So I have built out my database, it's a Postgres database, to use the Fire spec schema as far as I can tell, as best as I can make out. This is an accurate version of that. All of these things that say string here actually should not be string. Most of it should be JSON JSON binary. As well as there should be a couple more columns here. But the thing that is important about this, I think, and I don't have organization on here. There's a couple other things that aren't here quite yet. But the thing that's important about this, I think, is that this sets up the data model to be ready for this tool to be an ecosystem play. Even if this data model has to change, even if things have to be edited down the road, it's ready. It's ready for the ecosystem. It's ready for the R4 standard. So that's one thing. The other thing is adding authentication. This is not publicly available yet, so you can't just come here and make make an account yet. But I do have some authentication powered by Clerk. Clerk is HIPAA ready, as is the database in the back end here. Again, I'm just kind of running Clerk in, I'm running Clerk in kind of a free mode, if you will, right now, or kind of I haven't started paying for the plans yet, so we're going to see Clerk branding everywhere. But Clerk authentication is working here. It's authenticating against the database. It's showing all the right all the right resources per kind of instance, so everything is kind of cordoned off correctly in the database. This is getting to be a real piece of software, which is kind of exciting for me, particularly as somebody who's just a designer. I'm pretty excited about this. Even if this goes nowhere, I have learned a heck of a lot here, probably more than I'd ever hoped to learn about database functions and how to query and insert data and write SQL and all this kind of stuff. So it's either way, it's very exciting for me. So there's a new kind of experience here that I'm excited about, and the reason that I've spent I've spent a significant portion of the last couple of weeks really working on the Fire data model, the authentication, the database management, all that kind of stuff. And the reason for that is because I felt that once all of that was ready, it's just a matter of really going wild and going ham on the experience improvements. I spent a lot of time on the experience and trying to figure out what that experience should be, and now it's time to take the data model, take the authentication. It's all kind of ready, and now it's time to really start customizing it, really putting the power user stuff in here. And that is both the experience itself in terms of the way it looks and the way it behaves and the way it functions, as well as the way the way that a user can customize and set up the system, which I think is one of the powers of a simplified EHR, is that the focus is going to be on customizing workflow, not on kind of giving you everything you could possibly ever need to do out of the box. We'll see. I'm happy to be proven wrong on that, but that's my current philosophy. So a couple things that I have added. So this calendar has a little bit of a different visual language. This visual language is what I'm currently working on improving. And the idea here is that this visual language is balancing the simplicity and kind of like, kind of openness that a lot of people crave in our user experiences and the digital experiences that we have. We can thank Apple for that, and Google and all the rest of Silicon Valley. I'm trying to balance that with the necessary density, because healthcare data and healthcare workflows require a lot of information. And it's important, even if we don't necessarily want to have those really hard conversations about just how important it is as designers, it is important to encourage density, to encourage some kind of friction at times. And so one of this kind of exploration that I'm in right now of like kind of balancing, kind of on the left-hand side, these kind of big bubbly nav items, and then also like the density of the information. And I'll show you an example here. So, things like these sidebars, and like in this page, I'm intending to have like essentially be a summary of the chart on this page. And that's going to be a lot of information. So I'm going to have to get really good at designing tables and building these components that can represent collections of information that is kind of connected in a way that is a little bit more dense and a little bit less simple or minimal that we might want. So I'm excited to do that. I'm going to be getting into more of that in the future, but the bigger improvements here are around the calendar specifically. So now I can click on a calendar slot, and I've got all the proper time in here. I can choose a patient. They need a prescription. I can spell refill for albuterol. So this might be a follow-up, and I can create the appointment. And the appointment gets created successfully, even though it doesn't show up in the calendar yet. That's, again, just part of this process. It has been created in the database, and, that is kind of an exciting part of this for me. All these appointments, by the way, are being generated on the fly, and all of this is, like I say, Fire spec, and also only showing and querying the data that needs to be queried on this page. So I'm only really querying the name of the patient, the ID of the patient, as well as the birthday on this page. And so we're not actually exposing any other patient data here yet, besides essentially which appointment they have. And then once we click into an appointment, which we have now kind of this more condensed sidebar calendar kind of experience, which is still a little rough around the edges and needs some more love. But now we're actually querying and pulling in more of the patient data around, all this. Again, all of this is synthetic and fake data, by the way. Like, this is all completely fake. I downloaded this from a Cynthia website, so don't worry about that. But then we're querying and pulling in all the right data on the specific page for the appointment. Again, and that's just, I think, part of my understanding is that's part of the HIPAA or the ONC certification spec, maybe even the HIPAA spec, is to only query the data you need and expose it to the client in browser. So all of these little things are coming together. The Fire data model, kind of the database and the authentication work has all kind of culminated, and now I'm really intending to start kind of going and running at the experience here and really making this experience really great, because that, I think, is what's going to be important. An example of that right now is, even just like this little card here, which I really like, and of how we're representing, the name of the patient, the information about the visit type, things like that. I think this view right here should be very, very close. It should be almost exactly the same, I think. And when you add a patient, you should be able to add a patient right here. If you decide you need a different type of appointment on the fly, we should be able to customize that and add that. I've got this older experience here for adding a patient. I think I'm going to deprecate this pretty completely and make it a little bit more of a condensed, smaller experience like that other calendar experience. And again, this is all just experimentation, because now that I've got the data model, I'm excited that I can now actually experiment with these user experience improvements, because I think making this thing world class is going to require those types of experiments and that type of work to really understand how do we really truly make a measurable, tangible difference to friction, to kind of overload, burden on the clinician in terms of user experience. And this is very much geared towards independent clinicians who are running their own practice. So I don't expect this to come out of the gate and solve all of the enterprise level problems in this space. But I am excited to be able to at least start making incremental moves in that direction, if I can be so bold as to say that. And I'm excited that we're really starting to actually get this thing going. Like that's what I'm most excited about. So, if you have thoughts, if you're a clinician, you're like, hey, I wouldn't use that, or I would love to try that. Let me know. I'm both pieces of feedback are valid, and both pieces of feedback warrant more conversation on my part with you. And if you're willing to do that with me, I would love to take the time to do that. I'm excited to be getting this out in the world. I'm excited for this to kind of go out there. If you'd like to try and just peek around at this, tryceramic.com. Please know that it's all very much work in progress. There should be wet paint signs everywhere, and your demo workspace is not going to work yet because I'm still working through the nuances of that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'm doing this to encourage you maybe also to share your ideas, and don't be afraid of keeping your ideas kind of to yourself. Share them for the world, and who knows what's going to come of that. I don't know what's going to come of this, but I'm excited to find out.